So I just put the present. Is that, can you see that one, Shitanshu? That the slides.
No.
Yes, yes, I can see. I'm at.
Oh,
Hmm.
Says live.
I think I. Okay, it's okay.
It is live, and on our computers we either open the YouTube or this one. Otherwise, we'll hear both audios.
So Shitanshu, during the panel discussion, you can send us to backstage.
Yes, yes,
So only the panelists need to be there in the main thing.
yeah. So it is 6 p.m. now.
Um,
Yeah, Viju, perhaps we can start. It's 3 minutes past 6.
oh, so what happened?
So maybe you can start. Uh, I can control who is on the screen, so don't worry about that.
I think Sahana says, "Can you let me in?" So, okay. Okay. Shitanshu, shall we start?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes, Priju, go ahead.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So, welcome everyone. My name is Briju Tangachan. I am serving as the Executive Director of EdTech Society. Today, it's a very exciting day for us as an organization. Today, we are celebrating the first anniversary of EdTech Society. We cannot believe it's already 1 year. And so today we have two important events. So we'll just briefly celebrate, recognize some of the volunteers, and then we will get into the main part of today's session is the panel session on chat gpt. uh, so, but my responsibility today is to welcome our members to the organization. So, over the last 1 year, we had several sessions that we conducted, and we, as an organization, we really want to create some value within our members. And so, this is your professional home. So those who are a technology, practitioners, researchers, developers, teachers, high school teachers, higher education faculty, trainers, NGOs, different sections of, academia, industry, and different sections can join as the member of the organization. Uh, so and so I was just looking at the graph of the demography of our currently joint members. We have a very good representation from all over India, and we do have more representation from Maharashtra, but we do have representation all over India as well. And so, as a member, so we really want to welcome you to our professional home. And I was reading in the Times of India. In India, there are around 50,000 higher education institutions. Just this institution alone, there are 50,000. And right now, EdTech Society's membership, it's around 90, members, both professional and the students. But we are a small number, but I do believe in the next coming 5 years, our membership will grow very large way. So we will be using the educational technology in a better way, in the coming years. So I just want to welcome you all once again, the new members to the organization. And as an organization, we are educational technology professionals, and you can find more information about the organization etsociety.org. So if you have any questions, any related, problems, so please do send us an email at info@etsociety.org. And as you know, we are a professional organization. It's very new, and we do have our own limitations. So, but we will try our level best to make sure you're comfortable within our organization as well. Thanks again. And now I will hand over to Dr. Sridhar Iyer. He is the president of EdTech Society, and he will briefly talk about the annual report of EdTech Society. Over to you, Sridhar.
Yeah, thank you very much, Briju. So before we get into the annual report, I would just like to give a quick brief of the history. So even though we are just 1 year old organization, so it was, I think, way back in 2017 when we said that it is time to create an organization for edtech professionals in India to come together, largely from different academia as well as industry. And that's when we started thinking about how to go about creating such an organization. And it was in 2019 when we said that yes, we should actually take the jump. And it was 2022 by the time we actually launched the organization. So there was a lot of groundwork that needed to be done in terms of registering it and so on and so forth, which all, because of the COVID also, it all took its own time. So in 2022 is when we finally launched the organization. So having done so last year, one of the things that we were thinking about is, okay, now that we have launched it and we had some plan, the question was, what are we going to do? So for the first year, we kind of took a very modest target. We said, okay, let's just establish our presence. And even though it was a little bit uh, structured, we decided to go with a series of master classes. So many of you may have attended these master classes. So there were 9 master classes held in the last 1 year on a variety of topics such as instruction design, learning analytics, propagating active learning, and then content curation, 3D modeling, so on and so forth. And it was heartening to see that all of these master classes had a reasonable attendance of 70 to 90 people in many of them. And a lot of them also interacted and said that there was value in it. So that's why towards the end of the last year, we said that okay, we seem to be actually doing something useful. So it is time to actually start inviting more members to join. Okay, so towards the end of last year, we had a membership drive, and now we have about 90 members of the EdTech Society. So in the meantime, we also created a website. As you can see, the website is up, and there was some small logo creation competition and things like that. So what we do is currently we have an executive committee of 7 people who were the ones who actually created it. We had to go and sign the documents and register the society and so on. And we have been meeting once a month, largely driven by Briju, our executive director. And we have been kind of planning what are the next things to do and so on. So right now we also have a social media presence through which also you can be part of it and be clued into what's going on. So that's about what we have been doing. So now that we have actually onboarded so many people and people have paid fees to be part of this society, it becomes important for us to start thinking about what exactly is the value that we are delivering. So in the last few meetings, we have been brainstorming about, should it be just that, we are going to be talking about something and people who come to the society are just going to listen to what we are saying. And then we realized that, that is really not the way we do things. And our idea is largely about community participation and of sharing knowledge rather than transmitting knowledge. So from this year onwards, one of the things that we've launched is this series called Perspectives in EdTech, which is basically a set of panel discussions. So the masterclass series will continue, and then in the perspectives on EdTech, there will be these panel discussions where different members or even maybe experts from outside we will invite for discussing different topics. And in this case, it is uh, the on ChatGPT right now. And then one more event that we are starting is a series where the different members can now come together, and share their own expertise. So their different members can, what we are calling it as, share your technology integration in education expertise. So that is something which members can do. And again, Briju will send out a note later on how to participate, how to propose what you can share. For example, you may be really good at using some tool, and that may be something that others may want to learn that skill from you. or you may be very good at using some technique in your classroom, and others may want to learn that from you. So that's another thing where different members can share their knowledge. Also, there is the an idea that we are coming up with, saying that, look, we'll have a member of the month, where you can create a 3-minute video of your usage of EdTech and kind of showcase it on the platform. There's a lot of volunteer opportunities and leadership, and also, as Briju mentioned, as the organization grows, there will be more and more of these opportunities, and we do expect to eventually have chapters in different colleges and so on and so forth, which will take its own time. So we are not in a hurry to grow at this point, and we were more like growing organically and continuously focusing on what is the value that we are delivering to the members. So on this count, one important thing is the technology for education conference. So many of you may have attended this. This is the technology for education conference, international conference, which we have been doing under the IEEE banner. So now it's called T4E, where the 4 is actually an expansion of 4 E's. It's no longer just technology for education, but it is for about and a couple of other uh, so let me invite the uh, General Chair Sahana, who is here, to tell us about the conference.
Okay, thank you. I'll just welcome everyone and then share. So the T4E conference 2023 will be held in IIT Bombay from November 24th to 26th. And like Sridhar mentioned, we one of our goals this time onwards is to be a lot more, lot broader, more inclusive. So T4E stands for Technology for Education, Technology of Education, which is the science of learning, technology in education, which is the usage of tools by instructors or other people in the education space using it, and technology across education, which is about the reach and the scale and the access and so on. The call for papers is out, so let me just hand it over to Professor Ramkumar Rajendran, who's the program committee chair, and he will talk about the website, the submission, and other related issues.
Thanks, Sahana. So I'm Ramkumar. So as we mentioned, we expanded the T4E as a T4E, not technology for T4. The four means for, in, across education. So the website link is provided in etsociety.org. If you go to the EdTech Society main page, there's a logo of T4E. You can click that. You can see the website. I also given the link in the slide now, etsociety.org, T4E 2023. In that call for papers also there, the detailed call for paper, the themes, the different types of submission is provided there. I just like to brief you what type of submissions we are expecting. There are research studies, a practitioner research track, and industry research track. These are the full or short paper submissions. Research studies can be, you'll be conducting research studies, to test your hypothesis, or to come up with a new design methodology, or come up with a new instruction design when testing it. Or practitioner research track, where you will be working with a NGO, or you'll be working with some CSO initiatives, where you are actually practicing the education in a different settings. It can be also this industry research track, where you'll be part of industry, you'll be conducting studies, collecting data, you want to talk about it. So research paper works for full paper and short paper. This will be peer reviewed by the reviewers and will be published in the IEEE Explore. We had to get the permission, and we apply the application for IEEE. Other than that, for others, we also have workshop submissions, best practices, and teaching demos. We want teachers who have best practices from the teaching to come and show us their learning also to others. So we have other tracks, workshop, best practices, and teaching demos. This submissions will be published in ET Society proceedings. So to help some of the the authors, we're also planning to conduct a pre-conference workshop called Action Research Course. That course will talk about research methodology in education and how to apply this research methodology to write a better manuscripts. We'll be sharing this course details soon in a couple of days via ET Society, all members. And the important part is all the EdTech Society members will have a discounted registration fees for the T4E. So discount will be more than your membership fees of the EdTech Society. So we request everyone to attend T4E. We have the submission deadlines are in June, so we have a couple of months more to write papers or to talk about workshop or share your experience about teaching demos. So we welcome all in T4 2023. Thank you. Briju, back to you.
Okay, great. I think now it's the time for our volunteer service award. I think Samir is going to share the volunteer service award.
Yes, so yes, so happy birthday to all the members for the 1 year completion of EdTech Society. Yeah, so we were supported by, because this is a society, we are supported by many volunteers who have been working in various domains. And we thought birthday is the appropriate time to reach out to them, and a good shout out to all those who have volunteered. So yeah, we start with Spruha, who has been volunteering for the digital design part of it, the website, uh, in terms of its um, interaction design, the layout, the development part. So yes, Spruha Satavadekar is the person. The next person is Nagesh. He has been kind of giving his volunteering services for the graphic design. So all the posters, banners, social media campaigns that you see run through him. I was just talking volunteers. So when we started this session, Spruha was immediately giving a chat message back that, okay, change the ticker now. It is still going on with we are starting in a few minutes. So such kind of things are happening at the back, and these are these volunteers who are doing it. Okay, next person is Arjun for the technical support in terms of the developmental part. Some of them actually, I don't know, many of them I have not met them personally. They are all virtually. We have been meeting each other and contributing to various aspects of. We have Sandeep Yadav, who has been volunteering for all this StreamYard kind of, mostly during the our master classes. So organizing these things to go live. So he's the person to bring us live. Okay, next we have Meera. She's also from the same team, and where we create this virtual event, and they just have distilled all these technologies to come to StreamYard now. We have been stable on StreamYard for a couple of master classes so far. Okay, so Meera, Sonika Pal, same, from the event promotion team now. So all the social media management, I have seen Sonika getting hold of it, and the moment the designs get through, then it becomes Sonika's property to just post it on various platforms, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on and so forth. So that's way we can do that. Sunny Prakash is the person who will send out the email communication to all of you. So the ones that you receive, and some of them which you don't receive sometime, actually go from Sunny's place. But yeah, so he has been diligently going through various spreadsheets to distill out various long email groups and all that, and then finally sent out from the account of EdTech Society. So yes, Sunny, thanks Sunny. We have Ram Das. He's also on this event certification, because after people attend, then we have started creating digital certification for them. So collating the data from the the event data which is available, and then generating on digital certificates. So that's Ram's contribution. Thank you, Ram. And we have Asavari Deshpande. Oh, okay, the photograph is missing here. But yes, so she is the person who has designed the EdTech Society logo. So she volunteered as the intern last summer, and during her tenure, she worked on the EdTech Society logo, and she created various versions of it for it to be used on various locations like website and certificates and so on and so forth. So yes, so that's the list of volunteers. Thank you all of you, and all the best. And over to you, Briju.
So now is the time, the one that we expected for the panel session, and I think Shitanshu, it's going to take over now. And then at the end, there will be a vote of thanks. And Shitanshu, it's on you now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Briju. Let me bring all the panelists in. All right. Okay, great. So, hello everyone. My name is Shitanshu Mishra, and welcome to this session. It is essentially a panel discussion. We'll discuss uh, things on ChatGPT and similar technologies. The objective is to slightly bring ourselves out of the fear that is growing around such technologies. We are overwhelmed with the kind of results that ChatGPT produces. So, what? Yeah. So the panelists we have with us is Dr. Aditya Joshi. He is a data scientist at Seek, staying in Melbourne, and he has been working a lot for years on natural language processing and AI. He will tell more about himself in a meanwhile. Second panelist is Dr. Aditi Kothiyal. She's an assistant professor at IIT Gandhinagar. Her expertise is in learning science and educational technology research. Uh, Other panelist is Mr. Sumit Srivastav. He has a long experience in information technology industry. To the best of my knowledge, he has been working on recommender systems. Now he is doing his PhD in a subject related to educational technology, and he's using NLP and AI in his research. And the most important panelist we have with us is Mr. Ashish Musale. He is a undergrad student at Kolhapur Institute of Technology, and he'll be providing us the perspective of what youth thinks, what a student thinks about ChatGPT. So, to start with, maybe I have limited knowledge about what are the exact detailed expertise of these panelists. Maybe we can start with each panelist one by one, and they can tell something more about themselves, starting with Aditya. Over to you.
Sure. Hi, my name is Aditya. I have been working in natural language processing. So, natural language processing is the branch of artificial intelligence which deals with text. And so, when you type things in ChatGPT, you're essentially interacting with the computer with text, and that's what I work on. I am currently working for an employment marketplace where essentially candidates apply to jobs and they submit their CVs, and we essentially match them So as you can understand, I have been working with a lot of text-based data sets, and that's what interests me.
Great. Over to you, Aditi.
Hi, I'm Aditi. So I work a lot with educational technology in engineering and in science education. And so I try to understand how students learn with technology and how technology changes the way that people think and learn. And so ChatGPT is interesting to me from that perspective, that when I interact with with students who are participants in my research studies, but also those whom I teach in a classroom, what how are they changing as a result of this interaction with ChatGPT? So nice to be here.
Thank you, Aditi. Sumit.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Shitanshu, for the wonderful introduction and thank you for having me. I'm Sumit Srivastav. I'm pursuing a PhD at the University of Twente in the Netherlands. Well, I haven't really worked on the recommender systems, just for clarification, but it's been more about ad tech systems. Anyways, right now I'm working on researching in using a phenomenon called linguistic alignment. I'll explain what it is to personalize explanations in natural language. My research right now is placed in explainable AI, explaining AI models, but I plan to and I envision that I'll be using these learnings in education technology at some point in time. A few things that I'm planning already. Well, linguistic alignment. Um so whenever we humans converse, we tend to copy, the linguistic features. Say, for example, terms and phrases, pronunciation, um, to each other. We adapt to each other. It makes conversations more natural, more understandable, and that's what I'm trying to use in making explanations more understandable. Yes, that's from me.
Great. Thank you, Sumit. Over to you, Ashish.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. My name is Ashish Muse, and I'm from KIT's College of Engineering, Kolhapur. And I'm here to give the students' opinion. I'm literally here to represent the students' perspective about ChatGPT and various other AI technologies that are out there. As a student, I'm enthusiastic about how ChatGPT can actually be used in education system, like how I can use it to as a co-pilot to improve my skill as well as study the concepts and the current technology that I have at my hand. As well as I'm here to discuss the potential downside as well as upside of the ChatGPT and how we can take control over it so that we can make it to our advantage. So this is all about me, I guess. Thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Ashish.
Yeah,
Thank you,
that's all.
everyone. So let's start with addressing the elephant in the room. So for many of us, it's it has been an overwhelming and buzz news that something known as ChatGPT has arrived. Uh, Maybe Aditya, you can help us in understanding what is this ChatGPT, how it works, maybe in a language that everyone can understand. So,
Perfect.
yeah,
I know that since we last met, I have put on some weight, but there is no reason to call me the elephant in the room. Jokes apart. So ChatGPT is a web tool that I'm sure a lot of us have used. It is a web-based tool, and the fact that it was available to a lot of people has actually made it popular. But as you would know, there are lots of web tools available on the internet. ChatGPT sits on the top of decades of research, almost 60 years of research in natural language processing, which is what I talked about, essentially artificial intelligence, which deals with text. Where have we seen early forms of natural language processing? In Word, when we make a spelling mistake and there's a red underline, that's essentially a very starting point of natural language processing applications. Now let's come to Chat GPT. When we see Chat GPT, I see two parts there, Chat and GPT. Let's focus on the GPT first. GPT starts with the letter G, which stands for generative, which means it is going to generate text. For example, if I say every action has and ask you to complete this sentence, it's quite likely that many of you will say every action has an equal and opposite reaction if you are thinking about Newton's third law. So essentially, ChatGPT, the fundamental idea is it starts generating words one by one so that they make sense. It is trying to complete words in a sentence. Now, what does making sense mean? How does a computer know how to make sense? The computer knows how to make sense because when it was trained, which means when it was learning, when the program was learning, it was provided a large data set of documents, which is the textual documents. Where do these documents come from? These documents are essentially books, websites, Wikipedia, GitHub repositories, which are code repositories, mathematics textbooks, academic textbooks from school, and so on. So essentially, when we say that ChatGPT knows a lot, it is a program which has been trained on a really large data set of documents, which also explains why ChatGPT sometimes does factual errors. Because if the documents it has been trained on have these errors are going to propagate into the output that it produces. Similarly, ChatGPT also produces biased text because if the documents contains biases, if the document is discriminatory towards people, then these ideas are going to reflect in ChatGPT's output, although the company has blocked some of this hateful content. So I talked about completing sentence, but now let's look at the chat part. What does chat mean? You ask a question, I respond. My question has to be coherent to what you have asked. So for example, if you ask the question, what is the capital of India? And I respond saying, I ate a banana for breakfast this morning. This is not a coherent response. A teacher would say, pay attention. Did you understand my question? And I used the word attention here on purpose because attention is a mechanism in natural language processing which makes sure that the answer is coherent with the question. So what does the model do? It picks up words from the input and starts completing this sentence one by one. As a result of which, it is also able to remember the state in the conversation, which is why you can start a conversation by saying, imagine you are a 5-year-old. Now explain this concept to me. And the conversation, ChatGPT continues to remember this persona. It is called a persona in natural language processing. So that's really my overview of ChatGPT. The ideas I want to highlight here is G talks about completing sentences. Chat talks about making the answers coherent to the input. And I also want to highlight here that ChatGPT is trained on a large data set of documents across different domains. That's it from me, Shitanshu. Thank you.
That's wonderful, and it would be important to highlight again that if we understand what is Chat GPT better, we'll be in a better position to understand the limitations of Chat GPT, and therefore we can decide when to use, when not to use. Sumit, maybe you can, if you want to, add something to what Aditya said, and which may be required for the general audience.
Well, I think what Aditya said was precisely what it is supposed to be. It's indeed a great definition, and probably I'll borrow it for whenever I'm talking sometime later about ChatGPT. But just to reiterate, and Aditya already mentioned it, but just saying it other way in more layman's person, that what not to expect it to be, that do not expect it to be your friend. Do not expect it, trust it blindly, and like Aditya already mentioned that it does provide a lot of factually incorrect information, and say we call it hallucination in more scientific terms, but the scientific academia in general. But in simpler words, basically it imagines a lot of facts and cannot really distinguish between what reality is and what fiction is. This is something we humans are really good at, and There's a lot of research going in that direction, but there's a long way to be there. So use it, but with caution.
Great, great. So let's before moving further on ChatGPT in education or generative AI in education, let's try to take a step back and Aditi, can you tell us more some insights on how to integrate any technology in education? Uh, so you have years of experience in creating edtechs and integrating available technologies for educational objectives. So, are there any thumb rules? Are there any principles, theories that one can incorporate when trying to improve their teaching learning outputs through technology? So, any general principles and thumb rules?
Yeah. So I think when it comes to technology, one of the most important things, technology in education, one of the most important things to remember as we, with any technology, is that technology in itself is not the solution. So how we choose to use technology can perhaps offer some ways to influence the education process positively. And so as you can see, it's there is a big appropriateness clause over there. So that said, what are the purposes for which we can use technology, right? So there is an idea that technology can be used to perhaps replace some of the instructional practices that are going on. And why do we want to do this? Perhaps to simply to provide access, for instance, to people who don't have access to something. So if you use Zoom to transmit a lecture over distances, just transmit a lecture over distances, that we are essentially replacing the instructional practice of lecturing to, using the medium of Zoom, right? So there we are just, it's the same instructional practice, we are just replacing it using technology. On the other hand, technology can do more. It can do what is called amplification. It can make it can make education or learning more efficient, more effective, more productive. So in the same example, if we follow through on the Zoom example, if we now start incorporating some Zoom polls to interact with the audience, then we have started using the technology in a better way to create more engagement, to make the learning more active, and so on. If we now add some multimedia to it, if we add some simulations or some animations, then we are using the power of technology, the multimedia power of technology, even further to enhance people's understanding and so on. So this is the sort of the amplification clause. And a third way to use technology is to completely transform the way that we teach and learn today. And the way that is done is that technology can be used to create completely new affordances which did not exist before. Now, to give you an example, if we create a VR, if we want to teach somebody about what happens within the body when a virus attacks, right? And we want people to understand it in a very immersive way. Now, if we create a VR environment, then that can situate the learner within that environment, and it can potentially completely change the way that they are learning, because this is not an experience that we have had before. This is not a way to teach and learn that we have had before. This is not a media that we have experienced before as human beings. So in this way, technology can also transform education. So when we think about using technology, what of course we should think about what our learners need, and then go backwards and think, do we want to replace an existing practice, do we want to amplify the existing practice, or do we want to transform the existing practice? So this is just some nomenclature. This is sort of the RAT, or the RAT model of technology integration. But essentially, the RAT kind of helps us to keep in mind the three parts of it. That let's keep the learner first in mind, and then think backwards, what is it that we want to do with the technology. So I think even when we think about ChatGPT, now we have to think about where we want to situate it. Potentially, it could be situated in all three places, but maybe more on that later.
Great. Thank you, Aditi, for giving us a brief about what is RAT model. So now we realize how important rats are. So yeah, replacement, amplification, and transform, the three different objectives with which we can view any technology, and how can it serve our purposes in education. Great. So with this overall, maybe the model of RAT, maybe we can yeah, go to our student, Ashish. Uh, so Ashish, can you tell us about what do you think about ChatGPT, and uh, if you are using ChatGPT, and if your friends and peers are using ChatGPT, what do they use it for? What do you use it for? Can you elaborate? And then
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
at the end you can tell us about comments on whether it is really a scary thing or a helpful thing, or
Okay,
both.
sure, sir. So I'll start with your first question. That is, how do I use the Chat GPT? So to start with, as a computer science student, I mostly use it for programming purpose, right? So we have this, to start with a real example, we have this subject called theory of computation, and in that we have something called the finite state machine. So my project was to create a simulation of that finite state machine, which would work upon the input string and generate the finite state machine and state whether it will be accepted or not. But at one moment, I was just stuck and wasn't able to get rid of the bug. I was just not sure how to proceed with that, and I was just stuck. So I just copy pasted that part of the code where I thought like there was bug, and then ChatGPT responded to me that there was something wrong with the understanding of the transition function. So I looked into it, and I realized that something was wrong with the transition function. I modified it and I was able to move ahead. So we can summarize that Chat GPT helped me to adapt in an adaptive way, because it was trying to understand my way of the programming, and it helped me to produce the solution which was more efficient and correct. So I guess I have answered your question regarding how I use Chat GPT. So first was the programming purpose. My friends and the peers do the same. They use it for programming, but along with that, to just to explain, one of my friend has this great interest in teaching. So he mostly asks ChatGPT to, for example, summarize this concept in a way as if you are explaining to 10 years kid, and then you go like, okay, now explain it like you are explaining it, no, creating the content for undergrad students. So this way he is able to both understanding for himself as well as make it understand to everyone that he's trying to explain that thing to. So that actually gives you the insight into some of the upsides of the Chat GPT. Those are, it is fast because it can give you results in a fraction of seconds. Second, it gives you the content in a single platform. It's not like you have to go on this website, then collect some information, then go to the other website, grab something and all. And many a times the research papers that we want to study, you do not have access to it. You can only have institutional access to it, or you have to buy the premium. So in that case, you can simply ask ChatGPT to summarize this research paper. So you get the overall idea of what it is all about. So these were the upsides that I have observed while using ChatGPT, and so do my friends have observed that. And getting back to next question, if I'm not wrong, it was about whether or not it should be banned, right, Professor?
Yes,
guess.
whether it is really scary or helpful.
Yeah, right. So the short answer is no, I guess, because I'll start with a story. All of us know that back in 20th century, Robert Oppenheimer went on to discover the nuclear bomb, and when he did that, he knew that it has going to have downsides. And we have already observed that when the case of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it was devastating. It destroyed lives of millions. But did that stop them from using these nuclear bombs or nuclear fusions? No, it didn't. They just put some treaties and restrictions on it, and instead they used that nuclear energy to harness electricity. And today, as we know it, it provides 10% of global electric consumption. So similar case goes for the chat gpt. I mean, we should have freaked out already when we had the nuclear bomb and those cases happened, but we didn't. So in chat gpt, I would say, though it had some downsides, it also had some potential upside that I have already mentioned. And it's these upsides that we should be putting our more efforts into. And actually the question was actually asked to the Sam Altman, the CEO of the OpenAI. And he was asked, if he given a chance that there is 5% chance that your AI is going to end the world, what would you do? Would you press the kill button of your AI? And he said very pleasantly that no, I will push a button to slow it down. So it was a very funny response, as well as it was insightful, because what he wanted to say is that he will not totally ban that technology. Rather, he will give it some time. He will slow it down and try to figure out what are the ways in which to restrict the disadvantages, so that it can be managed and handled and controlled by us. So although this that question might have arisen in your mind whether or not it should be banned, because many of people think, based on sci-fi movies and all, that AI might take over you and all those things. But as per now, chat gpt is sitting in the server, and it is only based on the input given by user and produces the responses. So to its abilities, it has no, and it just can't take over the human beings. So that's what I think about the chat gpt. So we should definitely use it. Banning is not an option for it. Controlling it and using responsibly, and making it more productive by providing the feedback, because chat gpt is based on the uh, what we call it, the feedback network, or rather we call it uh, there is something, a term which says that it is based on the feedback from user that then propagates through the system and create the best results. So that was all I got to say about the use of chat gpt. Is there anything that you want me to clear about, Professor?
Uh, no, first of all, to clarify, I'm not a professor.
Okay.
Okay. And yeah, so overall, we saw that Ashish has very much optimistic and solution oriented lens to see ChatGPT. Uh, but he also talked about regulation, in addition to uh, the fact that it has a lot of good use. He also talked about things where we may need regulating the use of ChatGPT or slowing it down. The question is whether can we really slow it down once it has taken its space. So yeah, so over to you, Sumit. Can you shed more light on this? That whether technologies, AI, uh, can we really regulate it, and then you can follow up with giving more light on how one should uh, how these evolving AI and evolving technologies, what do you see how they can be helpful for learning without slowing them down and other things? Yeah.
Thank you, Shitanshu, for the question. That's a very interesting question, and I think Ashish has set a quite good context to it. So, to see slowing it down, well, a lot of countries around the world, especially Europe, EU, at the forefront is at the forefront of bringing in more regulations for the companies, the agencies who are developing or working on AI, and to bring in say transparency. Explainability is another very important aspect to it, that whatever AI that you're using, that it should be explainable. Black box is not really a good thing. So for example, when Ashish said that ChatGPT was able to debug what was wrong, but it was not. It did not really explain how it was wrong, right? And I mean, that's a very naive example, but there are many more critical things that are happening out there. AI is now being used for taking decisions, and and that can be very can have a much more huge impact. And explainability is one of the aspects where, say, like I said, EU is focusing on. So these kind of regulations are something that need to be in place for sure, to make sure that it progresses, but it progresses in the right direction and not really for the misuse. And uh, there's another thing, how it should be used as well. So we should, pay attention to that part as well, that how it should be used. So, for example, you know, access students. So we are talking about education. So access to students, that should be, I would say, especially to the younger students, it should be regulated to a certain extent. uh, Unsupervised access to ChatGPT or thing, they have other similar large language models or GPT type have come up in the last few days actually. So those that access should be regulated because, like Aditya already mentioned, that they are biased. They and the critical decision part. So all of these things can actually affect whosoever consuming this, and the information coming out of such systems. And we do not say humans are accountable even they are when they are biased or wrong decisions, but they are accountable, but systems like these are not accountable. And also, say these systems can be engineered, prompt engineered in terms of ChatGPT, but they're still non-deterministic. They're not really testable to the extent that we let them out for everyone to use it anyway. That's why I said regulation, but how to use, and certain policy, that's important. And as far as now coming on to the usage part, that's something, a lot of opportunities that I see related to my own research as well, plus something that I was reading last 2 days back. So there is a paper research article that came out from MIT, and what they did was used ChatGPT for training customer support agents to improve their skills of responding to whosoever user is coming in. And what they noticed was, so those agents who took about, say, 6 months of training, they were able to achieve the same levels of skills within 2 months. Also, those, say, the underperformers or those who were lower on skills, their skills improved drastically. Um, and that's something really, really interesting to see. And to give you an example, how it could probably be also used in education. So I was wondering, say, writing skills. So not everyone in a class is a good writer, and it's not possible, right? So say ChatGPT can probably be used to help improvise writing skills in students who are not good at it. So something like that can be there. A really good opportunity, I would say. Another thing related to my own research is, I mentioned I'm working on personalization of explanations. So ChatGPT can probably, if having appropriate access to data, uh, can help personalizing the content explanations to its in natural language to its users, and that can be really helpful for students in general. And yeah, this is my perspective. Lot of opportunities, but yeah, as Ashish already said, some regulation is definitely needed. We are in its direction, but a lot needs to be done for sure.
Okay, thank you, Sumit. Uh, so we heard a lot about like regulation. Sumita talked about unsupervised access, and that may be not productive. That may be counterproductive. Uh, so these regulations and ensuring supervised access, all these are something that some second person provides. But what an individual uh, user of ChatGPT. So, are there some recommendations that you can make about what we should be careful about and what we should not do with ChatGPT? So maybe I'm opening the floor. Maybe we can start with Aditya. So what we should not, what we should be careful about when using ChatGPT.
Sure. So I'll say ChatGPT is a parrot, tota,
Mhm.
popat. And I'm not making this up. There's actually a recent paper in natural language processing which refers to GPT as parrot. And therefore, the parrot repeats what it has heard, sometimes in parts, but at the same time, the parrot is also listening when it is sitting in the same room as you. And therefore, the point that I want to highlight here is around privacy. All the data that we put within ChatGPT can actually be used by ChatGPT to retrain or relearn the models. And therefore, one must be careful about not putting in private information. For example, I would never put my CV. One should be very, very careful about not putting confidential information about somebody else. At the same time, one should also be careful about not putting proprietary information. For example, a Korean company recently found that some of their employees used ChatGPT for bug fixing, but their code ended up in the ChatGPT repository, which could be used to retrain it, which could be used to hack the system. And therefore, when we are using ChatGPT, I think we must remember that it is a parrot. It is going to give us a nice answer, but it is also going to remember something and it might blurt it out to somebody in the future. So I think the proposal that I have is that for teachers teaching students how to use ChatGPT, I think it should be an important component. It should be a component to consider where students are taught in a formal manner how to use AI technologies, specifically ChatGPT. And a key component of that is what not to put there, what not to include there. That's my thought.
Yeah, maybe it's open. Over to you, Sumit and Aditi, Ashish.
So, with respect to learning, right? I think the the one thing that I think students and teachers alike should remember is that when it comes to learning, there is no real shortcut. And so we learn when we engage with the content, we when we grapple with something, when we struggle with it, that's when we understand something well, right? So there is really no shortcut that exists with learning. And in fact, it has been repeatedly found that when technologies are used to make things easy for people, they do not end up learning as much as when they put the effort. So I think from a learning sciences perspective, that is the key message that I would give to students. By all means, or and to teachers, by all means, use ChatGPT. In fact, lean into ChatGPT. But remember, use it in a way that makes the students to do the kind of processing that they need to do. So, I mean, ChatGPT is generating something, and to learn, it's the students who need to do the generative processing. So, we have to be careful that we are not making things very easy for students with ChatGPT. So, give them tasks using ChatGPT that makes them put the effort rather than making things easy for them. That's
Great, great. So yeah, any comments from Sumit and Ashish?
I'll quickly add one thing that I already said. So still see AI, ChatGPT, any other related technology in a supportive role, and it should not be considered as a replacement for, for humans in any role that you're considering, your teacher, your parents, your colleagues, friends. No, still a supportive role and a long way to go. And yeah, use it, enjoy it, um, but be cautious.
Great. Anything else? Any other comment from Ashish?
So I would just say that as already Mr. Sumit Sumit has mentioned that we should not be over reliant on ChatGPT. It has this hallucination property. It hallucinates us. For example, it states the information as if those are facts, although it is totally made up. And given that we usually tend to believe it because most of the times it gives the correct answer, we assume that this time also it has given us the right answer. I just we blindly believe it without rechecking it. So that might lead to wrong information, and this wrong information might again be feedback into the network, and this might generate a huge mess. So we should be careful while using chat gpt in that respect. As well as I would like to add one more point, that while teaching, student might use this chat gpt to assess the assignments that are posted by students, like just go through this assignment and figure out which one has written the best essay or assignment. But it could be biased, so as mentioned by one of the panel members. So for example, if the content on which the ChatGPT has been trained was biased to particular demographic region or some particular set of students, then it would be a totally biased decision. So even if the contents of the written assignments were same or equally valid, it will judge the one uh, or it will just decide one to be the best on which it regarding the one which or the related to the data set on which it was trained on. So this might lead to the problem because it might depress a students. It might make him feel bad about his ability to study as well as to write assignments, although it's not the case. So that biased decisions could happen. And so even both students as well as professors has to keep in the mind that although it is acting as a co-pilot to us, it should not be the reverse. It should always be co-pilot, and we should not be under the control of that AI. That's what all I wanted to say about.
Yeah, so it's interesting, Ashish. So, can you tell us from your experience what do you do when to ensure that things that ChatGPT is responding with are accurate?
Okay, so here's the thing. Many times when I, write into the prompt, I ask some questions, and sometimes you have some background on that question. Like okay, I know I do have some basic idea of the concept. So let's just ask ChatGPT to elaborate on that. And in that case, you know where it is going wrong. So in that case, I might not have to, just recheck it because I know okay, it is giving me the right answers because I have some background on it. But in the situations where I have no idea about something, like I'm a computer science student and I'm asking ChatGPT to explain me the quantum physics, in that case it would be better to recheck what it has said. I might as well ask it to, are you sure that you have given me the right answer? Because ChatGPT
Mhm.
has this ability to go through whatever response that it has generated and correct it if it was wrong before. So I guess we have to re-verify those answers in that way if you are not sure about it. And with advent of ChatGPT 4, I guess they have also given it the ability to control tools like calculator as well as web search. So in that case, you can simply ask it to go and search on the web. So the way ChatGPT produce answer is by, it's as professor has mentioned, GPT. It is generative pre-trained transformer, right? So it generates creates a reasoning based on your question. But if you want to verify it, you can ask it to use web tool and go and search on the internet and validate your answer. You can do that with ChatGPT 4, and it was actually explained greatly by one of the workers in the Microsoft in one of his talk in the MIT, the Massachusetts Institute.
Great, great. So, just to move before moving on, let me just remind the audience that they can post their questions and comments in the comment box for all those who are watching us from YouTube live stream. Please use comments to post your questions. And it would also be interesting if you can post your usage of ChatGPT, that how you have used ChatGPT for your learning or for your students' learning. So I can read one of the comment from Ms. Vaishnavi Ramesh. She says that she has worked with school teachers who use ChatGPT to assist them in creating lesson plans. With overloaded schedules, it gives them a starting point and helps free up some of their time. So that's a good usage of ChatGPT. It is easing teachers from some redundant tasks that are not very much essential but are needed as a part of logistics. Right. So you all can please post your questions, and you, if you want, you can also mention the panelist who you want to question. So, and while you are posting your questions, let's visit back to Aditi, and let's hear more about theories, learning theories. So, Aditi, all the, I mean, learning theories have been evolving, and with evolution of technology, theories, how students interact with the technology and how the learning happens, it keeps ch- evolving, right? So, understanding how people learn, uh, it will be contextualized with the technology. Now, because this sudden emergence of such technologies, how do you think that existing theories, or majority of the existing theories, are they still relevant, and are they going to update themselves, and maybe in what directions they will get updated?
So that's it's a very pertinent question. It's also a bit difficult to answer. So I'm going to speculate a little bit. Um, so when we speak of learning, there is of course the aspect of the cognitive aspect of learning, which is how much did you gain some knowledge, or how much did you increase your ability to do something, right? How much did you gain some skill and so on. Now, how this happens, to the extent that which happens inside the brain, that is going to remain the same, right? And some of the things are not going to change in that respect, which is, as I said before, and I really want to reiterate that, with that, to learn something, the student has to be engaged. They have to be active, they have to be doing tasks, they have to put in the effort. All of this, they have to do the mental processing. There is no replacement for that. What tools like ChatGPT do is that they change the socio-cultural environment within which the learner is located, who is doing the learning. So now the external aspects of learning change, the socio-cultural aspects of learning change. So how easy it is for a person to create something changes, right? So definitely, we, in this aspect, we need to re-examine how the sociocultural theories, um, how the role of the technology affects learning, needs to definitely be re-examined, and we need to think of it. We need to now start thinking. We have to apply a new framework to think about this. So, should we consider GPT as just another technology? So typically, when we think of technologies, when we are trying to study what is the impact of a simulation, for example, or a new learning environment, it's very clear that the technology is supporting, right? But now, with something like AI, which can really do some of the tasks, you need to start reimagining the technology as a collaborator, right? So it is somewhere in between something which is providing a scaffold and something which is a collaborator. So we need to start rethinking learning theory in that sense, and I think this really opens up the space for learning scientists to reimagine how they want to think of how learning is happening, because there's definitely there's potential, because even this morning I came across a study which said that ChatGPT in fact was supporting students who were weaker in learning more than students who were, let's say, were high performing, right? So that it potentially reduces the gap. So then the question that we have to ask is, that's a great thing. As educators, we want people to succeed. But then we also want to see, well, okay, if that is something that can be reduced, what else then can we teach our learners? What else can we make them better at, right? If creation is so easy, if I tell my students, create a lesson design and they can do it, ask ChatGPT and do it in 10 minutes, maybe then I should change what I want to teach them. And I have to start asking them, can you tell me if this lesson plan makes sense? Maybe I start asking them a question which they cannot even be sure whether ChatGPT knows the answer to. So make them do different kinds of processing. So yeah, it is going to open up the space for learning scientists for sure. Yeah, that's my sense.
Amazing. Uh, so before moving on to maybe the concluding question, where I would request each panelist to give at least one or two recommendations on how to integrate ChatGPT or similar technologies in education, maybe some usable recommendations for the audience. So before moving on to that question, maybe we can take question from the uh, chat. So one of the question is from Sri Lakshmi Priya. She asks that, can we use Chat GPT in education to prepare multiple language lesson plans? So maybe anyone can take the question. So
So
it's about
ChatGPT
multiple
has
language, maybe. Yeah, Aditya.
ChatGPT has some multilingual ability. It does produce Hindi text, but it is not as good as English.
Hmm.
So yes, you can. I think one can use it to prepare lesson plans in multiple languages, but a lot of post editing will be required, which means you'll have to go through it and fix it. But it can be a good starting point, in my understanding.
Yeah, so it could be a good starting point. And yeah, many of us has observed that even in within for whatever task we are using ChatGPT, it at least serves as a good starting point. But uh, we should also be careful what Ashish said, that it may have a limited perspective. So normally an individual might have a different perspective. So first rely on your multiplicity, your own perspectives, your multiplicity of your perspectives, and then go to ChatGPT as the next starting point, and then you can move ahead. Other question by Sadik Athanikar is, the AI tools like ChatGPT 4, ChatSonic, etc., are able to code and many more things. So, what will be their impact on coders' job? Also, do we need to change the traditional syllabus related to engineering? Yeah, so maybe it's a follow up to what Aditi said, that it might change the objectives of learning. So maybe anyone, Sumit or Aditi, do you want to take it?
Yeah, so what I think, people, suppose if the job, if what we are training our students to only do is code, then perhaps we need to change our syllabus. But I think that is not the case. We are training our students to do a lot more, and what we hope at the end of it is, I mean, this idea that there has been a lot of information and education, information is getting democratized, has been around for a while, and that is why we have been talking. We have been talking about how we need to switch to 21st century skills, right? This just brings that point to the fore even more. So what it tells us is that some more skills, not just information, but some more skills have gotten democratized, and these include designing, lesson plans, writing code, and so on. What then we need to do now is to train our students in using these outputs, but being able to reason with them. So let me give you an example. What we have faculty doing here at IIT Gandhinagar, for instance, is they're really leaning into the ChatGPT thing. They're asking ChatGPT to generate code, and ChatGPT at some point will generate flawed code. And they're giving the code to the students and telling them to run it and generate test cases where it works and where it doesn't work, right? So now, if AI gets to a certain level, the race is, can we push human intelligence higher? And so that is, I mean, I don't like to call it a race, but the idea is that we use that and say, what else is it that as humans we can do better? And let's try to figure that out. So we can, and if we can do that, then we can collaborate with AI and do bigger and better things, right?
Yeah.
So let's try to train students to do different things better.
Great. So another question by, yeah, you want to add something, Aditya?
Yeah, sorry to
Sumit?
interrupt. I actually wanted to address that coder's job question
Yeah.
that Sadik had. So this is coming from my experience working in the industry. Well, basically, ChatGPT can give you code, but it can give you code, very, very basic code. Um, you know, and actually most of it you can also find on Stack Overflow and a lot of open source projects. When you're coding as professionally, you're supposed to write code in a context, and the business logic, it's really complex. It's not like something that's already available on, Stack Overflow and other more open source thing. So, but as soon as you have to code in a context, a business logic which is complex, ChatGPT is nowhere close, and we don't really see it coming anywhere close anytime soon. So, coder's job is all safe. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so if we refer to the traditional revised Bloom's taxonomy, so still ChatGPT can ease us from finding out outcomes at maybe recall, understand level, maybe apply level too. But when it comes to synthesis and creation, it will need a lot of knowledge about context, thinking critically around the context, and finding out the solutions. Next, one of the interesting questions uh, that is out there in the community about ethics. So Saurabh Mehta asked that how ChatGPT will change the thoughts on ethics in academia and maybe ethics overall. How is it triggering, and what are the ethical concerns that we should think about? One of them, Aditya mentioned, things on your own data privacy, maybe data privacy of your company. So, any thoughts on ethics and ChatGPT?
So a quick, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is if students are asked to submit their essays as emails, then they might just use ChatGPT and not even read the email, not even read the output, right? That is a serious ethical concern. A lot of universities have gone back to handwritten assignments because even if you're copying ChatGPT output, at least you're writing it, you're learning something out of it. So that's one thing that comes to mind.
Great. Uh, Sumitra asks that can we use ChatGPT to check our concept on a topic is correct or not? So, self assessment. If not, then what is wrong in our concept? Can it tell you? Uh, I think partly it can, but still you need to have skills to navigate through technologies. And I personally believe that it's very important skills these days now. We need to train our learners on how to navigate through this age of AI. The lot of gadgets are around us, lot of technologies are around us, but we should know how to navigate through them. So we should know, for example, how to Google a simple, very basic skills, how to do a web search, and then using web search, how to verify the outputs of chat gpt like technologies, right? So yeah, maybe that should be the answer. Anyone wants to add to it? Okay, maybe we can take the last question by Spruha. Would ChatGPT related educational interventions be useful as novel active learning strategies? Could you speculate how would it influence the intervention outcome with respect to human participants? Maybe Aditi can take it.
Um, Actually, could you? I'm not sure I understood the second part of the question.
Yeah.
How would it influence the intervention outcome with respect to human participants? So, are you saying what would be the impact of using such a strategy with respect to humans participants? Maybe if you could just respond with a yes or no,
Yeah.
then I can. Yeah.
Maybe she's interested in
Yeah.
knowing the actual. Can we impact the learning process, the thought process of the learners? And maybe
Yeah.
can, yeah, she says yes.
Yeah. So, for example, TPS with a human versus TPS with ChatGPT. Yeah. For example, there has been some suggestions that we start using ChatGPT as like a collaboration buddy, right? So, for sure, if you are, for instance, if you are running an online course and you can't always have um, um, another person to collaborate with to run a think pair share sort of thing, so potentially in the pair phase you could use a gpt as one of the participants, and with the goal uh, that it is the human participants learning that we are interested in is at that moment. And if we provide the right prompt, then gpt's answers, correct and wrong, can be a great way for the human to start reflecting and evaluating and thinking about it. So yes, there's definitely some value to that with respect to human participation and active learning. That's just one of the examples, like
Yeah.
TPS, but you could have many things. For example, in a class, if you asked ChatGPT to ask students to generate some content using ChatGPT and then ask peers to evaluate it, that works out great. So yeah.
So that's a very interesting point, Aditi, that you made about Chat GPT's the fact that it also produces incorrect response or factually
Right.
incorrect response. That could be a blessing for creating such a educational
Absolutely.
intervention, that it will
Absolutely.
act like just another human who can commit
Right.
mistakes, who may
Exactly.
not know the facts. So yeah,
Right.
that's a
Right.
great
And so
point.
that provides it some level of authenticity actually in that scenario, when we don't use it as an expert but as another average intelligence, then it provides that authenticity of a classroom to the learner, to the human learner, let's say.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we can just take one more question and then move to the end of the panel discussion with that uh, recommendations from all of you. Uh, so Shamla Rao asks, this is really an important question because many of us, or many of everyone mostly, they have feared this, that Chat GPT may make students more lethargic. So making everything available on a golden platter, it will be counterproductive to learning. So what are your comments on, yeah, response to this? So does it really makes uh, like gives students a lot of things on plate and
So
counterproductive?
so I understand the concern with that, and definitely if given that it is so easily accessible, so very often with technology, right, the technology has with edtech, the technology was limited access so far, right, and so we could design it in a way to be appropriate, and to provide a sufficient level of challenge to make learners think and to do the necessary generative processing that we want. The issue with chat gpt, the main issue is that it is open access. So what happens is that, yes, the potential for misuse in the case of in simple cases is very easy, because you give students an assignment, they can put it in chat gpt, get an answer, and my own students have started doing it. So it's also very easy to identify, by the way, when students give you a chat gpt response. So that is easy, right? So that is where our task as educators becomes harder. So we have to be one step ahead of what the technology can do, and give them tasks that we know necessarily ChatGPT will not be able to give them an answer. So it can make students life easier, but then we have to give them a harder task to do. So yeah, that's on us.
Great.
Well, Professor, can I say something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
sure.
Yeah, I would like to provide a different perspective on it. So let's say it's more like changing the perspective of the question. So for example, initially when the question was asked by professor, our approach would be to go and do the literature review, or just to get some background, we will read and then we will try to answer. But now given that everything is on our hand, maybe we should change the question from maybe, okay, now I have everything, so what else can I do with what I have got? So instead of saying that maybe it's making me, as already mentioned, that less productive, maybe I should use the information that I have at my hand, and to figure out what are the different answers that ChatGPT can produce. Okay, now what are the differences between those answers, and what else can I do with what I have got? So I will use that time to achieve more, rather than saying that you're being lethargic on and all. So it totally depends on your intent actually. So if a student want to make a really great use of it, then you can always go ahead. The information ocean is huge and infinite. So I think the way we question it should be changed, I guess. That's my
Ashish, you're a
opinion.
very good student. Okay, you're like my ideal student. But we also have students who will definitely misuse it, and who'll use ChatGPT to generate an entire lesson plan and then not admit to it. So yes, that's what students should be doing, and that's what we're saying here. But students will often not do that, and so that's why it's on the teacher to make sure that the student can't game the system.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, all
Great.
right.
So,
Thank you very
just
much.
in the interest of time, we should move to the end of the panel. Okay, so what we want to end the panel with is provide some one or two liners of recommendations that how to integrate uh, generative AI like technologies in education. So maybe that is to end with some takeaways for the audience, very crisp one or two lines. Maybe we can start with Aditya.
Uh, in addition to ChatGPT, there are other tools available online, and I will recommend this tool called perplexity.ai. It not only produces an answer to your question, but it also gives you citation. So you're able to verify, click on the link and verify if it is correct. And the second thing that I want to say is that ChatGPT is like a new mixer in your house. It replaced the handheld mortar, but it will never replace the person who cooks for you. Thanks.
Awesome analogies, Aditya. The parrot one is great. Now hand mixer one. Yeah,
yeah.
Sumit.
Yeah, for me, it's ChatGPT or similar other models are an opportunity. Um Also, like Ashish is already using it, and the tool itself with its its capability at language, the structure, vocabulary, fluency, it's something can really be useful in enhancing the experience for its users. Uh, for a lot of different use cases, personalization is, like I said, it's a very important thing, being researched a lot, and that's something ChatGPT like tools can be very, very helpful across a lot of domains and use cases, especially education. So yeah, that's where I am with ChatGPT.
Yeah. Over to you, Ashish.
Well, I'd like to say that we have this great technology at our hand that we have something new and we should go and explore it and try to have the most benefit out of it, because technology will always have downsides and upsides, and it's always up to you how you use it, and it will keep going like that. So the best way to look at it is to make the most efficient use of what we have got and try to look forward into the positive future. That's all I have got to say. Thank you very much.
Great. Aditi.
Okay. So Aditya took like the best line of the day. So it doesn't replace the person who cooks in your house. And that's to say that in education, it will never replace the teacher. And the teacher has all the power in the world to do something good with ChatGPT. And my idea would be to use this AI, which can generate plausible alternate realities, so to speak, to give these to the students and help them help them become better at advanced thinking skills like critical thinking. So give them these alternate realities and help them understand which is more true, which is more fair, which is more moral, which makes more sense. So let's use this to develop their critical thinking, which is a 21st century skill which we have unfortunately not yet achieved in the 21st century. So let's use this to do that, to create realities and train our students. So that's my 2 cents.
Great, great. Uh, we have got a lot of takeaways, I believe, especially the model, the analogies that Aditya presented, the RAT model, and the last bit of takeaways that you all shared. Thank you, everyone, for attending, the online audience. And thank you to all our four panelists for giving us your time. Uh, just to conclude, I would like to give some input from what I think is that many of us fear or are concerned about that ChatGPT will ease uh, students and teachers of a lot of things that are essential. That, but I believe that those things might be uh, essential historically, but in the current world scenario, they might be less essential, and there are a lot of other things, other very important things for the world that we should invest our time to. For example, a problem of climate change, and it's very essential to train our learners, teach our learners on the complex relationships between different scientific concepts, economic concepts, life concepts, and they should be able to better integrate them together to understand that how climate change might uh, directly impact their life and the world and the future of the world, right? So such kind of new concerns have evolved in the current world, and the fact that AI has evolved so much is not should not be a concern, but we should view this evolution as an opportunity that it might help in designing trainings on these complex topics, and maybe it will ease out the traditional teaching learning objectives. So what Aditi said before is like what above create level. So maybe there are a lot of new complex problems that are needed to be taught and learned, and maybe these technologies can help us design better solution towards these new problems. Thank you, everyone, for attending and for being panelist. So with this, we are ending this panel discussion. Thank you. I'm now inviting Briju to take over.
No, please invite add JK for the vote of thanks. I think he's on the backstage, Shidansh.
Yeah. JK.
Yeah. First of all, thank you everyone. And as Sumit mentioned, it has been an engrossing last 1.5 hours, and now I have come to the final bit of this today's sessions. Uh, so, uh, Educational Technology Society was set up primarily to engage more such interactions between different people involved in teaching and learning in general. And as you know, learning, it's not just I mean, everyone is included over here. And nowadays, as technology is rapidly gaining foothold into the teaching learning space, it becomes important that more of us are involved, engaged with each other, and continue conversations of how this is happening. And to this extent, I hope Educational Technology Society will work more with you to give that platform for each and every one. So, first of all, uh, I would like to thank all the esteemed panelists who were over here. It was amazing to hear the multiple perspectives that came out of the topic of ChatGPT, what it meant, uh, right from the basic definition of GPT to the wide-ranging impact that it can have, the way ahead, how to use it, uh, issues related to privacy. All these are very important part of it. And thanks to Aditya, I just went into perplexity.ai and I just asked the question how to draft a vote of thanks, and it gave me some good suggestions. So yes, so I think this technology is here to stay. But yeah, it is important that we understand the benefits that it can give us, and appropriately try to utilize it uh, for the best of teaching learning process. Uh, Next, I would like to thank the executive committee members of Educational Technology Society, um, right from who had started off this session, provided provided us with a review of what happened in last year and how we are looking forward to the upcoming years. Starting from Briju, Professor Sridhar, Sahana, uh, Professor Ramkumar, uh, Professor Samir, um, Professor Kapil, Professor Yogendra, and of course Dr. Shitanshu, who are all part of the executive committee of Educational Technology Society. Um, uh, my next thanks goes to the volunteers who had done such a fabulous job of coordinating this, sending out mailers, and alerting everyone that yes, there is a session today. So please do join. And of course, the tireless work that they have been doing over the past 1 year in arranging master classes, alerting participants, of course, the graphics, the website. A big thanks to the volunteers, without whom, yeah, it would not have been possible for us to set up a session, set up this society in this format. Last but not least, a big thanks to all the Educational Technology Society members who have joined us, who also have been participating in some of our masterclass. I hope you will take more benefit from the Educational Technology Society membership, as Professor Sridhar and Briju had mentioned at the start. There are a lot more initiatives in the coming year. Perspectives is something that we started, and there is share your tie with us. As again, I would like to reiterate that one part that Professor Sridhar was mentioning. Uh, we are focused on community participation rather than just few of us doing these sessions. We want more of you to come over, share, use this platform to connect, leverage the power of educational technology, and what we are looking over is in the coming years, the Educational Technology Society should grow sufficiently and become sufficiently large that each and every person within the corner of this country could take benefit out of the platform provided by us. So, and that I think, and I would also like to thank all the people who have been watching YouTube and who are not our members but have come for seeing this panel, listening to this panel, and also are providing comments in the stream. Really, really thanks, because some of your questions were really good during the NLP session. We hope that you will continue participating in all our activities and soon become members of the society when the next membership drive happens. So that's all from my side. So this is Jai Krishnan signing off from our end. Riju, I think you can take over now.
No, I think that's it. We are done with the session. Once again, thank you all. So we'll see you next perspective 2 coming soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.